Hello there, Edge enthusiasts. My name is RidersDX, and welcome to this week's Riders Talks, where today I've been noticing, some specific type of discourse when it comes to Shadow Generation starting to spring up on Twitter. Of course, with Sonic, discourse is always a thing, but with this particular topic, I feel like the Earth's core is shaking. I feel that the tectonic plates are basically vibrating at 10,000 milliseconds, and it is just chaotic. And the thing about this discourse is that it's actually very important when it comes to the actual game because it's over level design. And so this is no like the color of Shadow's quill or Sonic's arms being blue versus tan, kind of thing we have going on here. We have actual talk about the gameplay of this game, which is a bit of a hit or miss thing when it comes to Sonic, unfortunately. I will say that Shadow Generations has a lot of promising things about it when it comes to like the story, the lore, environments being brought back into the game, the music choice. It has a lot of good things going from it from like an aesthetic standpoint, which I feel like Sonic has always been able to nail like very well. Even if not everyone is a fan of it, you can at least acknowledge that Sonic games always have at least high quality aesthetics, even if it's not your taste. But with Shadow Generations in particular, a lot of people have been going on the interweb and talking about how the gameplay reminds them a little bit too much of some of the more lesser well-received Sonic boost games, such as Sonic Forces. That's a big one that keeps being brought up over and over again. How linear and how automated like Sonic Forces was. People are seeing a lot of similar things in Shadow Generations' gameplay so far. Now, I'm always trying to be as unbiased and as objective as I can, although of course we have to know that that is essentially impossible because you cannot be objective when it comes to your opinion. Like that's just not a thing. However, I will say that I think I have a pretty good ability of seeing things as it is and seeing both sides of an argument. And I think by the time we finish this video, we're gonna find that both sides are correct and both sides are also incorrect, if that makes any sense. What I decided to do here is we're gonna go do the gameplay video that we saw recently of Shadow Generations. And so this particular video shows us the entirety of what is allegedly the first level of Shadow Generations, the Space Colony arc. We're gonna look at the entire video. I'm going to pause whenever I want to talk about some similarities to whether it be Forces or Generations and just try to come up with an overall summary of whether or not I think the level design is heading towards the Generation side, which would be, the positive side, having more innovative and input heavy 3D Sonic gameplay versus Forces, which was very automated and very linear and very simplistic. I have a feeling that Shadow Generation is going to fall a little bit in the middle, but let's take a look over here.
演示的是我们的太空殖民地方舟的这样的一个关卡，然后在这个关卡当中呢，也有一些拥有重力的一些机关啊，大家可以看到我们中村制作人玩得非常专注，
玩得很溜哦。哇，我看到我们的关卡也是非常丰富。
So you can already see over there just now that there were two separate paths Shao could have taken, and so before Shao went on that spring, you might have seen that Shao could have like gone straight forward to that path in front of him. But now Shao decided to take the spring and the camera shifted over to these asteroids, and so we are seeing some multiple pathways at least, so that's a good thing. I will say the beginning of the level was pretty linear, just kind of going a straight line kind of thing, but I mean it's the first 10 to 15 seconds of a level. There are going to be some areas like that, and so I'm not particularly going to fault the level design on this just yet. Let's see if this continues on as a trend throughout the level.
给大家展示这么一个关卡当中的这样一个第一关这样的一个舞台，但是呢，在我们的作品当中也有很多其他的关卡，比如说碧绿丘陵啊、化学工厂等等，也会有各种各样不同的机关以及那个酷炫的一个场景，然后期待大家来挑战。
Alright, so you could see that there were also some other points of like multiple pathways that we had over here. There was some sort of pathway you could be taking over the right over here, and so that is a little bit more hidden. And then if we go on to like a little bit ahead over here where Shao's about to like get into this little tube, you can see that there's an option to like get onto the rail on top of it, which could also lead to like a different path. I will say that like the pathways themselves so far seem a little linear, but there definitely is like multiple pathways to be taken over here. So I already see this as being a bit of an improvement over Forces at least.
挑战一下。
然后呢，大家现在看到我们屏幕的下方就有一个混沌控制的那个力量条已经满了。然后刚才呢，我们在索尼克下特世代重启，刚才中分制作人给大家介绍的过程当中，其实也有提到过混沌控制 对，混沌控制可以使时间。
Did you all hear those crowd gasps when we just did the chaos control? I can speak a little Chinese, so I understand that they're speaking Mandarin, but I don't know what they're saying, unfortunately. I'm the most useless Chinese person in the world. You can see over here that they're making use of the chaos control ability, and the chaos control ability can certainly introduce some different dynamics into the pathways as well, and so there's a little bit more linearity that we saw so far, but the chaos control can add a little more variety in terms of like what you can do getting around the level. So I'm hopeful that they utilize this ability to give us even more multiple pathways and give players variety in terms of like what they can do to really reach hard to reach locations. I think that's the thing that like I always thought Sonic games could have done better, is just give you abilities that you can use to almost like break the game and do all sorts of different kinds of things. I feel like Sonic has done good with doing things like that when it comes to some of his most basic principal abilities, like the spin dash, for instance. You know, being able to like charge up that spin dash and reach all these like crazy locations depending on at what angle you do the spin dash, how long you charge it for. The spin dash is a great example of an ability that can be flexed into so many different areas, and I'm hopeful that this chaos control ability can sort of have a similar impact.
混沌共治的这个要素呢，就可以怎么说，把时间暂停，然后一些比较困难的机关呢，其实就可以用一个比较方便的方式来跳过去了。
哇哦！真的在旁边观看都有种肾上腺素飙升的快感。
我觉得我们现场的粉丝给我们的应援也非常的令人激动。
And before we keep going, you can see that we're using a little bit more of the chaos control ability here, but the chaos control ability doesn't really seem to be giving us like different pathways. They seem to more so be giving us like shortcuts, you know, to kind of skip along the main pathway. So you're not branching off into like different areas, which some people seem to really want. And I personally think Generations actually did a really good job of with some of the later levels. And so I can kind of see that the chaos control seems a little simplistic so far in terms of like what you can use it for. This is the first level, so we do have to keep that in mind.
このステージ最初のステージなのでハウスコントロールを使う場所をたくさん用意してます。
接下来其实我们马上进入了这一个关卡的后半部分，大家可以看到也有一些 QTE 当中可以让大家体验非常爽快的动作和场景。
是的。哇哦！
Okay, folks, I really do have to say something that I think is going to get me in trouble, but I do not like QTEs in Sonic games. I think that they're just a huge waste of time. It's just something that I see why they're implementing it, because they want to implement some of these more cinematic, like flashy visuals that you can really use in like trailers especially, and really get people to like want to try out the game, which I get it, and it looks cool, and like the first few times I'm into it, but when I'm replaying these levels over and over again, and I really want to find the most optimal paths to get to like the end the fastest, these QTE events, like there's no way to like really skip past them unless you break the game. To me, it just sort of breaks the flow of the gameplay, and so I'm okay if it's like maybe once or twice throughout like every few levels or so, but an unfortunate trend I saw at Forces is that they were in almost every level. So I'm really hoping that's not the case here, especially because Shadow Generations is not a full-fledged game. We need to keep that in mind, and if these are in every single level in Shadow Generations, then I'm not going to be a happy camper, is all I'm going to say.
近未来的一个科技的感觉，然后也会有各种各样视角的变化，能够让大家体验到一个丰富的动作的体验，
很炫酷，很有未来感。哇！
I do want to say one thing. What you all just saw over there with like the ramp, you know, Shao like boosting up that ramp to like reach a far distance, that's the kind of stuff I want to keep seeing in like these boost games. Being able to play with the level environment to project your character towards whatever location or whichever direction you want them to go. That's the kind of stuff that is really great in Sonic games, when you're able to use your base abilities to manipulate your trajectory in terms of where you want to go. That's why the spin dash is so great, and why I will always prefer the spin dash over the boost, because the boost is just you click one button and it just goes at a basic like speed. There's not as much customization you can do with that.
通过在游玩当中积累这个混沌控制的这个技能条，就可以大家也可以说自己在游玩当中选择使用它的时间，能够让自己的那个成绩变得更加好一些。
是的。
That's an example of exploring the level and being rewarded for it. So instead of like going down the main beam path, they decide to walk around and see if there's anything else, and then they use the chaos control and they found there was like an even faster path they could have taken. And so that's the kind of stuff I really want to keep seeing, and that's really in this game's favor in terms of like good level design.
说其实因为怎么说，游玩的话是需要非常集中的嘛。我想现在很多粉丝朋友们其实也有很多，估计有很多速通的高手在，也是在这个游玩当中不停的去锻炼自己，怎么样更快的通关这样一个，我觉得也是我们游戏这次的那个非常能让人享受的点所在。然后现在呢，大家看到
I'm pretty sure my words are going to be misconstrued from what I'm about to say, but I am not really like big on this whole like interruption in the levels. I think the idea of it is very cool, and I think if we were watching like a TV show, like this would be such a cool idea to like implement into it, because to go from like the Space Colony arc and then suddenly get pulled into Radical Highway, that sounds really cool on paper, and it looks really cool visually too. Like I had a fun time watching the gameplay, but my concern with the gameplay in itself is that this, first of all, is going to break the flow in the way that like the QTE events like break the flow. So now we have like the previous QTE event, and we also have this like breaking the flow, and there's multiple parts within this section where you're just running around and just watching Black Doom do whatever it is he's supposed to do. And like I said, it looks really cool, but does it make for fun and innovative gameplay? That's my main concern over here. I really hope that not all the levels are structured like this. I would like more regular levels where you can just go from point A to point B and try to beat your time over and over again and things like that. Just look at all the levels in Generations. None of the levels in Generations have anything like this. I feel like the truck at the end of City Escape is the best way about approaching things like this if you want like more significant events to happen within your levels. It's a level where you have a clear change in what's happening in the level. You have a bit of a progression in the storyline, but the gameplay is not interrupted. You're still running as fast as you can. You're reacting in real time to what's going on. Meanwhile, here in this level in Shadow Generations, you're watching Black Doom do whatever he is for about like 5 or 10 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but if I'm replaying this level over and over again, I have to sit through this over and over again each time I play it, I'm gonna get annoyed pretty quickly, and it's gonna destroy the replay value of these levels. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I think people are being a little dramatic when it comes to like, oh, this is just Forces 2.0. This is clearly not Forces 2.0. There's definitely a lot more variety in the level design than there ever was in Forces, and I'm going to give the game credit for that. It seems like this level is off to a good start in terms of like offering a little more variety beyond just going on a straight line. I'm not a fan of the quick time events. I'm not a fan of the interruption with Black Doom going to Radical Highway. I would much rather have that be its own separate level. I'm hoping we're not going to be cheated out of a Radical Highway level because of this, because that would just suck. But that's my main concern when it comes to this gameplay over here, is that give me more of that classic multiple pathway exploration gameplay that I praised multiple times in this video so far, and less of that sitting through action sequences and playing this game more like a movie compared to an actual game. That's why we have cutscenes. That's why we have the hub world or things like that to explore the story. I just ultimately think if they're not careful and they go a little overboard with it, then that's going to interrupt the flow of the gameplay, and I don't think that's going to result in a very enjoyable Sonic gameplay experience. So I don't know, I feel like I sound like a classic like purist when I say that, because it's not like I'm against like storytelling and like plot progression in Sonic games. Like that's clearly not the case. But when it comes to like the actual action stages, that's the stuff that I just don't think is a good idea for these kind of games. And I think that's ultimately what people are more concerned about than anything. The argument that this is too much like Forces is a bit incorrect, and I can see why people are getting upset about that. But I think Shadow Generations has its own set of concerns that we're not really tackling. So I don't know, that's my overall thoughts on it. I think the gameplay still looks really solid, and I'm really looking forward to so much about this game. I'm looking forward to the storyline, I'm looking forward to what levels are coming back, I'm looking forward to the music, and the gameplay even looks fun. But there's definitely a delicate balance they need to maintain over here, and I think this level does an okay job at maintaining it, but it could be better. I will say this is allegedly the first level of Shadow Generations, and So with it being the first level, you have to remember that the first level of Generations was Green Hill Zone, which was a very linear and simplistic level for Sonic. And so we have to give a little grace here. This really is the first level because the first level is supposed to be simplistic. It's supposed to kind of ease you into the game. If this is just the first level and the other levels contain a much better flow of gameplay and such, then I'm excited. But if the progressive levels still contain multiple quick time events and action sequences, then that's when I would be a little bit skeptical and concerned about the gameplay. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You know I always want to hear your thoughts. What do you all think about this gameplay so far? Are you excited about the game so far, or do you see any red flags like I kind of am seeing? Nonetheless, I think that the game still has the potential to be a really fun game, and I'm excited. I want to see more. I definitely want to see more of the hub world in particular. That's what's really intriguing me here, and we're not seeing a lot of discussion about it so far. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know if there's anything else about this game you want me to talk about in the comment section. But all right, y'all, this is Riders, riding out.